What's good, everybody? This is Casey Supreme from Internet Money. Today I'm going to be doing Chord and Melody Secrets 3, but we're just going to call it 2018 edition because I'm going to rehash some of the stuff I went over in the past two videos and kind of show you an updated version. And this is just going to be the ultimate chord and secret video that you can refer to. So I'm in FL Studio 20. It's the new update. I don't know if you guys have noticed in my recent tutorials, but I have this little thing down here that shows the shortcuts that I'm hitting. A lot of people requested that, so I found a way to make it happen. So now you can see what I'm pressing to do the different hotkeys and shortcuts that I do. So yeah, in all future videos I will have that. That being said, let's get started. So we're in FL Studio 20, but this feature is in FL Studio 12. When I released the first video, a lot of people asked, why didn't you just use this feature? And the reason is I didn't necessarily like it as much because it's harder on the eyes to see, but I'm gonna go through it anyway and show you guys how to do it. So right now I'm in a piano roll. Let's add something. Okay, let's just add Dune 2. And let's go to like a pluck. Cool. So if I'm in the piano roll, you can see it's all blank, it's all the same color. Obviously it two-tones it, but these are the same color. So within here in the drop-down menu, we have helpers and we have note grid highlights. We have scale highlighting. So you can select major, and now as you can see, the major notes are highlighted. The reason I don't like this over the ghost note method is because this is harder to see. It's because the colors are so similar to each other. It's really hard to see and tell them apart, but it's still helpful. But a new feature I found within it that's really helpful is to set it to automatic. So let's say you're building a melody and you just click something in. I'll just click something in random. So let's just go. What has happened is whatever I clicked in, FL Studio automatically recognized what scale it's in and it pulled it up. So now the lighter notes are the scale. So I can add any of these lighter notes and it's going to fit. So that's a really cool way to use this feature. So now that I've figured that out, I just set it on automatic. When there's nothing in it, it looks clean. There's no random notes highlighted. And then when you add a melody, it figures out what you're playing and it sets the helper to match that. So that's a really handy feature. Probably the top tip I'm gonna show you in this video. So let's talk about the ghost note kind of sampler channel trick that I showed you in the original video. So if we go to a sampler channel, we go to the piano roll. In FL Studio 12 and 20, there's this stamp tool right here. It's a circle with lines in it. It pulls up all this. If you're in an earlier version, it's a drop down here that says chord, I believe. But anyway, it's the same in any version. So basically what we can do is we can go to a scale, like major or minor, which is Aeolian, minor natural. We can click that. We can make sure only one is unchecked because we want to be able to stamp it in like so. Basically, when we click something, we want the whole scale to click in. Now we can choose any key we want, so we can choose A. And if I just click on all the A's all the way up, you don't even need to go that high, but whatever. You can fill that in. Now, one thing that a lot of people said in the comments of the first video is to stretch this out. I knew about that already, but I just thought it looked kind of messy. But now I've realized it is kind of helpful. You'll see why. So we have that in the sampler channels. We have the A natural minor scale. So now if we go to the piano roll of our Dune 2, you can see it's all highlighted here. And see, this is a lot easier for me to see visually than the other method. Although the other method is more handy now that I know about the automatic. So you can use this next tip I'm going to show you with either method. You just need to see the scale highlighted. And if you don't see the highlights, just go to helpers, ghost channels. And you don't want to do editable ghost channels because that'll mean you can move these around even though they're ghost channels, and that can mess up your scale. So we just want to make sure this is on none. So when we click something in, it's a single note. Let's go down here lower. So now we have our scale. We can click in notes and build a chord. So let's build a chord progression. So we'll start on A. So the trick is you're going to skip every other highlighted note. So we have one on A, we're going to skip B, and we're going to place one on C. Skip D and place one on E. Now we just build a chord, and you can use this method of skipping every other highlighted note to keep building the chord as well. First, let's build this a basic chord progression. So we got this. So we have the bass notes laid out. I mean, if you already have a bass figured out, you can use this method to build the chords on top of it. But I kind of just do it by ear. I can hear it sounds pleasing together, and I'm using highlighted notes. So now I can build these chords out really quickly by just skipping every other highlighted note. So now we have a chord progression. Now we can build on these chords and make them more complex by using the same method. We're just going to skip another note, place another note. And now we have a 7th chord. We can keep building on top of that by skipping, placing. Now we have a 9th chord, and so on. You can keep building. So you can do that really quickly visually with this method. Just skipping a highlighted note. And so on. So now I'm going to talk about inversions. So we have these chords, and there's ways to make them sound better than they already do by using inversions. Basically what we can do is match up notes so they go into each other, so they blend. So for example, we have this E in this chord, and we have an E here in this chord. So if we take this E and we do Control up to move it up, now the chord notes blend into each other, and it makes it sound more pleasing. So we can do it again with this G. So now the chord sounds like this. And that sounds really cool as opposed to this. They both sound good, but it just kind of gives it a different flavor. So once again, we can move these up, and the reason we are is so these blend into each other. And we can do it with the next chord too. So we have, let's see, we have a G, we can move that up. We have an E, we can move that up. And the C, it can stay there. Or we can move it up. Even though there's not a C in this chord, you can notice there's a C in this chord. So just thinking ahead, it's going to mesh better. You know, we can keep doing this. Let's see, there's not really any chords that match, but we can move these up just for consistency. So now we have a whole new chord progression just by using inversions, and it's playing the same chord progression just with different flavor. And you can kind of play with that to get different sounds, but that's the gist of it. So that's this method. Once again, you can use the helpers note grid highlights and skip every other note just the same. The reason I like this method once again is it's brighter and easier to see with your eyes. It does get messy once you start putting stuff in the playlist because it's just a solid bar of notes. So usually what I do is after I figure out my melodies and chords, I just delete that, and then you got a clean look again. So that's the second method. The next one I'm going to show you is the piano trick, where you don't have to use a sampler channel at all. So basically, if we go into a piano roll, and you can use the same technique by looking at your physical keyboard in front of you and doing it with your fingers. So just like before, how we skipped every other note, when you don't have highlighted notes, it's harder to tell what notes to skip. So basically, you can play, let's play a C. And if I just count up with the 3-4 rule, so I'll do place one here, and I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I have a chord. and I can continue using the 3/4 rule by skipping another 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I built a more complex chord. Now minor chords are the opposite. So you want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And I actually had them mixed up. This is major, the other was minor. So just to reiterate, major is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You can keep building on it by going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And you can see it visually in between notes. There's 2 spaces and 3 spaces. So you can do it visually by just, keep doing that pattern. So that's the technique. So say we have this basic chord and we build a chord progression and it doesn't sound good together. What you need to do is move this middle note and it'll change it from major to minor. So we got a major chord, move it down, and we have a minor chord. So let me just build a chord progression to show you the example. So now we're going to build a chord progression, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And these are all major chords now. And in a chord progression, there's usually a selection of major and minor, so this is going to sound weird. Well, I'm just going to listen for the sour notes, and then I know I need to convert it to a minor. So let's try making this one minor and this one minor. Now it sounds much better. So that's a trick that you can do really quick. And like I said, you can actually learn chords by doing this, by playing it on your keyboard. With your fingers, you can go 1 and then count up on your keyboard, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then so that's a way to visually look at your keyboard and be able to play chords with a little bit of thinking, and you'll get faster at it. Now, these are all chord and melody secrets. I don't necessarily use them in every beat I make. I do know how to play piano. I do know chords. These are just tricks to help you guys that don't know much music theory build better sounding chords and progressions. So the last thing I'm going to show you is a VST called Scalar. Now this is some secret sauce. It has scales built in. Let me see. So you can build a chord progression, and then you can export the MIDI to FL Studio. So that's a cool way to do it. This is a cool program, and it takes a little bit of routing, but basically if we take Dune 2, we go to this little plug and gear icon, and we do input port. We can set it to 1, and we take Scalar. We do the same thing, and we set the output to 1. Make sure we turn off Scalar's internal sound. Now and you can play with the octaves. Now it's triggering the sounds in Dune 2. So I recommend Scalar. That's a good plugin. Obviously, when you're building a chord progression and you have all the scales highlighted, like for example, let's do. So now we have this scale, and we build out a chord progression. And I did that just using the highlighted notes in the background. It's a quicker way with the automatic. Now you can add melodies on top just by following the highlighted notes. It's really easy. So just by using those highlighted notes, I created a melody really fast on the top of my chords. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope you guys like it. This should be the ultimate chord melody secrets video for 2018. I love y'all. Leave a comment, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.